What if I told you that everything you've been taught about emotional strength is incomplete? For years, people have been led to believe that unshakable men are those who endure the most pain, who never show weakness, or who simply learn to ignore their own feelings. But that's not the truth. The truth is far more uncomfortable. The men most difficult to defeat are not the physically strongest, nor the most intelligent, nor the richest. They are those who have discovered a skill that most never develop, the ability to not depend emotionally on absolutely anything, not on people's approval, not on results, not on luck, not even on their own victories. This is the secret that has endured for centuries and can be found in the subtext of Machiavelli's teachings. While almost everyone spends their life trying to control the world around them, true strategists do the opposite. They learn to control only what truly belongs to them. It seems simple, but few manage to live this way. After all, how can you remain steadfast when someone betrays you? How can you keep moving forward when everything goes wrong? How can you avoid losing your own identity in a world that constantly tries to tell you who you should be? Most people believe that freedom means doing whatever you want. Machiavelli saw something much deeper. True freedom is born when no one else has access to your emotional state. It is at that moment that manipulations, fears, and the constant need for approval disappear. It is at that moment that a man emerges who cannot be bought with praise, controlled by criticism, or destroyed by temporary losses. Throughout this video, you will understand why politics guided by reality, not ideals, remains one of the most powerful ways to understand human behavior. You will discover how virtu and fortuna work together in building an unwavering mind, why the calculated use of force begins long before any confrontation, and how decisions based on real human nature can completely transform your way of acting. You will also understand why better to be feared than loved has never meant living in conflict with everyone, but rather building an unmanipulated presence, always knowing how to avoid being hated and preserving an appearance of virtue that protects your influence while your true strength grows in silence. But there's a detail that almost no one notices. The biggest obstacle to achieving this state isn't the people around you. It's not a lack of money. It's not a lack of opportunities. The biggest enemy is usually hidden within your own mind, feeding the illusion that attachment is a demonstration of love, when in reality, it can be the main source of suffering and weakness. And when you understand this, you will hardly ever see your relationships, your goals, or even yourself in the same way again. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder you are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There comes a point in life when a man realizes he has spent years trying to achieve something he could never control: the approval of others. It's almost like chasing his own shadow. The more he tries to prove his worth, the more dependent he becomes on the applause, praise, and even acceptance of those who often don't even know where they're going. Machiavelli deeply understood this trap when he advocated for a politics guided by reality, not ideals, because human nature rarely rewards those who live to please. It is precisely there that the first great liberation is born, understanding that the opinions of others change according to the convenience of the moment. Today, someone admires you. Tomorrow, that same person may criticize you for the same reasons they previously praised you. Think of how many professionals completely change their posture just to receive recognition from their boss, or how many people mold their personality on social media hoping for a few seconds of validation in the form of likes. This game never ends. True strength appears when identity ceases to depend on this external feedback. This doesn't mean becoming cold or arrogant, but understanding that better to be feared than loved only makes sense when you understand that respect is infinitely more valuable than empty approval. At the same time, it's essential to avoid being hated, preserving the appearance of virtue without making that appearance your only source of self-esteem. Those who develop virtue and fortune learn that their peace cannot be placed in the hands of other people's moods. And it is precisely when this awakening happens that an even more uncomfortable question arises. If the validation of others shouldn't control your life, why allow anyone to have that power over your emotions? Few men realize that the greatest prison is not made of walls, but of poorly managed emotional bonds. It's not about abandoning loved ones or living isolated from the world. It's about never surrendering control of one's inner state to another person. Machiavelli observed that human relationships are driven by interests, circumstances, and constant change, which is why he advocated a politics guided by reality, not ideals. When someone places all their happiness in a friend, a relationship, or even family approval, they begin to live like a rudderless boat carried by the waves of others' decisions. A single ignored message, an unexpected criticism, or a separation is enough for all balance to disappear. The truly strong man does the exact opposite. He appreciates the company of others, but never outsources his peace. Imagine a businessman who loses an important partner. While one falls into despair because he built his security on that partnership, the other takes a deep breath, reorganizes his strategy, and moves forward because his confidence was built within himself. This is the essence of virtu and fortuna, preparing for inevitable changes without allowing them to destroy your emotional structure. It is also an example of the calculated use of force, since controlling one's own reactions requires much more courage than reacting impulsively. Those who understand this discover that better to be feared than loved doesn't mean pushing people away, but preventing anyone from controlling their feelings. At the same time, they know how to avoid being hated, maintaining the appearance of virtue, treating everyone with respect without transforming affection into dependence. This emotional sovereignty is born from decisions based on real human nature and constant adaptability, because those who learn to walk without emotional crutches realize that there is another, even more dangerous dependence waiting to be overcome: attachment to one's own results. There is a silent difference between men who remain strong for decades and those who crumble at the first failure. This difference lies not in intelligence, luck, or financial resources, but in how each relates to their own results. Machiavelli taught that no strategy, however brilliant, could completely control fortune. Life changes, markets change, people change, and that is precisely why politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires accepting that effort is under our control, but the outcome will never be entirely certain. The average person works expecting a specific reward. When it doesn't arrive, they lose motivation. The strategist, however, works because they know that each attempt strengthens their virtue and increases their ability to face the next opportunity. Think of an experienced investor. They don't put all their assets into a single stock expecting to get rich overnight. They distribute their resources, accept calculated losses, and keep moving forward. The same applies to those who start a business, study for a competitive exam, or build a YouTube channel. Some videos will have millions of views, others almost none. Some businesses will prosper quickly, while others will teach lessons that no amount of money could buy. The end justifies the means has never meant acting without principles, but understanding that the path requires difficult decisions, constant adjustments, and the courage to abandon strategies that have ceased to work. This is the essence of constant adaptability. The calculated use of force appears precisely when emotion wants to interrupt the process, but discipline compels the person to continue. Those who make decisions based on real human nature understand that failure is rarely definitive. What is definitive is giving up out of pride. Better to be feared than loved also means being respected for one's ability to continue when everyone expects one to give up. Always seeking to avoid being hated for impulsiveness or arrogance, and preserving an appearance of virtue that conveys balance even in defeats. And curiously, when someone stops desperately chasing results, they begin to realize that there is something even more powerful to control than destiny itself. The image they choose to reveal to the world, and the silent strength they continue to build away from prying eyes. The mistake many men make is believing that competence alone is enough to succeed. Reality shows something quite different. Extraordinarily capable people are ignored every day, while less prepared individuals gain ground because they understood an old rule of power. Before discovering who you really are, people judge what they can see. Machiavelli understood this like few others. For him, politics guided by reality, not ideals, required recognizing that perception and reality go hand in hand, although they are never exactly the same thing. This is why the appearance of virtue carries so much weight. It doesn't mean living a lie, but communicating stability, confidence, and balance, while true strength continues to be built away from the spotlight. Imagine two professionals competing for the same promotion. One talks constantly about their qualities, tries to convince everyone that they deserve recognition, and seeks validation at every meeting. The other speaks little, delivers consistent results, maintains a serene demeanor even under pressure, and allows their work to speak before their voice. Over time, it is the second who conveys authority. Better to be feared than loved is not an invitation to authoritarianism, but to building a presence that inspires respect without needing to beg for approval. At the same time, he knows how to avoid being hated because he doesn't humiliate, doesn't display superiority, and doesn't transform competence into arrogance. While many spend energy merely polishing the mask, the strategist silently sharpens the blade. He studies negotiation, develops emotional intelligence, learns communication, masters finance, strengthens his body, expands his decision-making capacity, and invests daily in skills that no one can take away from him. This is the true expression of virtu and fortuna, because when the opportunity finally appears, it finds someone prepared to seize it. The calculated use of force manifests itself precisely in the choice to reveal only what is necessary, preserving strategic advantage. Decisions based on real human nature show that not every ability needs to be announced, and constant adaptability teaches when to advance, when to retreat, and when to simply observe. After all, there comes a moment when even the best mask loses its value, because silence begins to speak much louder than any discourse. There is a type of power that almost no one notices, precisely because it makes no noise. While most believe that victory goes to whoever speaks loudest, argues best, or responds immediately to any provocation, the true strategist understands that silence, when used intelligently, completely alters the dynamics of a relationship. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, required observation before acting, because any information given unnecessarily reduces the advantage of the one who possesses it. The impulsive man reveals his plans, exposes his emotions, and reacts to every criticism as if he were fighting a decisive battle. But he who masters his own silence transforms each pause into a source of information. In a negotiation, for example, whoever endures a few seconds of silence after making a proposal often leads the other person to speak more than necessary, revealing insecurities, limitations, or even opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden. The same happens in family conflicts, in the workplace, and even in friendships. Not every accusation deserves a response, nor does every provocation require a reaction. Better to be feared than loved also means conveying the image of someone who cannot be manipulated by momentary emotions. However, this control should never turn into unnecessary coldness. It is necessary to avoid being hated, maintaining the appearance of virtue through education, serenity, and respect. Silence is not the absence of action, but a refined form of calculated use of force, because it prevents the adversary from fully understanding your intentions. Those who develop virtù and fortuna learn that words can only be retrieved in memory, never in reality. Therefore, their decisions, based on real human nature, begin to prioritize observation over impulsiveness. Constant adaptability also requires knowing when to speak firmly and when to allow silence itself to produce the desired impact. Curiously, the less someone feels the need to prove who they are, the more authority they convey. But this serenity does not arise by chance. It is built away from prying eyes in an invisible routine that few have enough discipline to sustain. Almost everyone admires a man's calmness when facing a crisis, but few wonder where that tranquility was built. The answer is rarely found in the heat of battle. It is born much earlier, in ordinary days, when no one is watching. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires constant preparation, because whoever waits for chaos to arrive to learn to control their emotions has already entered the contest at a disadvantage. A cool head is not a gift. It is a habit trained daily. It's like a muscle that strengthens every time someone chooses to do what needs to be done, even unwillingly. Think of someone who wakes up early to train, studies for an hour even when tired, reads a few pages of works like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, Machiavelli's The Prince, or Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, and sets aside a few minutes to write in a journal what they learned during the day. These small actions seem insignificant when viewed in isolation, but accumulated over months, they completely transform how that person reacts to pressure. While many live as hostages to the moods of the moment, the strategist builds a routine that works even when motivation disappears. This is the true, calculated use of force, conquering one's own mind before attempting to conquer any adversary. Better to be feared than loved begins within oneself, because the first fear that needs to be overcome is that of facing one's own discipline. Even so, he seeks to avoid being hated, demonstrating balance, humility, and an appearance of virtue that inspires confidence without the need for self-promotion. The combination of virtù and fortuna makes each ordinary day a training ground for extraordinary opportunities. Decisions based on real human nature remind us that everyone feels laziness, fear, and insecurity. The difference lies in who acts despite them. It is precisely this constant adaptability that prevents stagnation and transforms discipline into second nature. And when this inner strength is finally consolidated, even the greatest disappointments cease to be personal blows and begin to reveal something far more valuable, information that few can see. One of the biggest differences between an ordinary man and a strategist doesn't appear when everything is going well, but the moment someone disappoints him. Most react as if they've received a personal sentence, plunging into anger, a desire for revenge, or deep sadness. The strategist, however, asks a completely different question. What is this event trying to teach me? Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires abandoning the illusion that absolute loyalty exists in all relationships. People change when their interests change, when fear arises, or when they see advantages in following another path. This doesn't mean living in distrust of everyone, but accepting human nature as it is, not as we would like it to be. When a partner breaks an agreement, when a friend reveals a secret, or when someone you trusted chooses to act out of convenience, the initial pain is inevitable. However, remaining trapped in that pain is a choice. The real gain lies in calmly analyzing the facts. What signs were ignored? Were there excessive promises? Did small actions already indicate a lack of character? Was trust given too quickly? These questions transform suffering into learning. This is exactly how decisions based on real human nature emerge. The calculated use of force appears when the response ceases to be impulsive and becomes strategic. In many cases, the best reaction is simply to withdraw that person's access to your life, without scandals, without dramatic speeches, and without wasting energy trying to convince someone who has already made their choice. Better to be feared than loved also means demonstrating that your dignity is not for sale and that your boundaries are clear, but always seeking to avoid being hated for actions driven by resentment or revenge. The appearance of virtue remains intact because those who control their own emotions protect their reputation, while time reveals who truly acted with integrity. Virtù and Fortuna teach that even the greatest disappointments can be transformed into a competitive advantage for those who learn to observe patterns instead of harboring resentment. And interestingly, when betrayals cease to be open wounds and become valuable information, a type of man emerges that almost no one can shake, precisely because his power no longer depends on the actions of others, but on how he chooses to interpret each event. After understanding each of these lessons, a paradox arises that confuses most people. Many believe that the more someone desires to acquire power, wealth, respect, and influence, the more they need to cling to all of that. However, Machiavelli observed exactly the opposite. The man who becomes truly powerful is the one who no longer lives desperately to possess, control, or retain absolutely anything. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, shows that excessive attachment creates fear, and fear transforms even brilliant people into hostages of their own insecurities. Those who fear losing money stop investing when good opportunities arise. Those who fear losing a relationship accept disrespect they should never tolerate. Those who fear losing status begin to make decisions only to preserve their own image. Little by little, they cease to control their own lives and become controlled by their own fears. The strategist breaks this cycle because they understand that everything can change, but their identity remains firm. It is precisely this inner freedom that makes their choices more lucid. The calculated use of force ceases to be merely a technique and becomes part of his personality, allowing him to act firmly when necessary and retreat without pride when it represents the best strategy. Virtù and Fortuna cease to seem like abstract concepts and transform into a way of life, in which competence and adaptation walk hand in hand in the face of inevitable changes. Better to be feared than loved takes on an even deeper meaning, because true respect is born when people realize that no one can manipulate their emotions or negotiate their principles. Even so, he continues to seek to avoid being hated, preserving the appearance of virtue through serenity, education, and discretion, because he understands that lasting influence rarely needs to be displayed. Decisions based on real human nature lead him to expect consistency only from himself, never from the unpredictable behavior of others. Constant adaptability makes each challenge an opportunity for strengthening, and each loss a preparation for a new cycle. It is at this point that detachment ceases to seem like renunciation and reveals its true essence, the highest form of freedom. And when a man finally reaches that state, he realizes that the greatest battle was never against the world, but against the old version of himself that insisted on living chained to the fear of losing. There comes a time when every man must decide whether he will continue living as a prisoner of circumstances or assume absolute command of his own mind. This moment is not usually heralded by grand events. It arises silently within a seemingly simple decision to stop surrendering his peace to that which he does not control. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires courage to accept the nature of the world without illusions, but also discipline to build a force that does not depend on applause, people, luck, or immediate results. The true oath is not made before witnesses. It happens when someone promises himself that he will never again allow criticism to destroy his confidence, betrayal to define his worth, or failure to determine his destiny. It is the decision to cultivate virtù and fortuna daily, preparing to seize opportunities without being destroyed by inevitable storms. It is understanding that the end justifies the means only when the means preserve one's integrity, intelligence, and ability to continue advancing. It is better to be feared than loved when that means inspiring respect through firmness of character, but always seeking to avoid being hated, because true influence is born from balance, not intimidation. It is maintaining the appearance of virtue without forgetting that true transformation happens away from prying eyes, where character is molded. It is practicing the calculated use of force to first overcome one's own impulses before facing any adversary. It is making decisions based on real human nature, abandoning comfortable fantasies in favor of clarity, and living with constant adaptability, knowing that the world will continue to change, but one's essence will remain firm. In the end, the untouchable man is not the one who never suffers, never loses, or never faces difficulties. It is the one who has learned to transform each challenge into fuel for growth. And when that decision is made, no circumstance can break what has been built within him. If you've made it this far, you've already realized that true detachment has never been about abandoning people, emotions, or ambitions. It has always been about reclaiming what should never have been given up, control of one's own mind. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, doesn't turn someone into a cold person, but into someone lucid enough not to be swept away by the emotions of the moment. And that is perhaps the biggest difference between those who live reacting to the world and those who learn to steer their own lives. From today onward, make a silent commitment to yourself. Observe how many decisions you still make out of fear of disappointing someone. How many times do you seek approval before trusting your own judgment? How many opportunities do you let slip away for fear of failure? How many words do you say just to fill the silence? How many nights do you lose trying to control events that were never under your control? Each sincere answer reveals a point that still needs to be strengthened. Remember that virtue and fortune walk hand in hand only for those who prepare themselves daily. The calculated use of force begins when you master your own impulses. Decisions based on real human nature cause you to stop expecting perfection from others and start investing energy in what can truly transform you: your character, your discipline, and your adaptability. This is how constant adaptability ceases to be just an idea and begins to guide every important choice in your life. And now, I want to leave you with some questions to reflect on. What today still has the power to destroy your peace? What loss do you fear so much that you end up allowing it to control your decisions? If all your achievements disappeared tomorrow, who would you still be? And the most important of all, Are you building a strength that depends on circumstances or a strength that remains firm even when everything changes? Write your answer in the comments. I want to know what the biggest lesson this video taught you was and what habit you're going to start changing today. Your experience could be exactly the encouragement someone else needs to begin that transformation. If this content has made you see power from a completely different perspective, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, each video is designed to develop a more strategic, disciplined mind, prepared to understand human nature without illusions. And remember, the hardest man to defeat is not the one who never falls. It's the one who never gives anyone the power to define who he is.